Okay, this is episode number 1 for the website is End Times Teacher, and this particular show for End Times Teacher with James Hess and Webb Evanson. Did I pronounce your last name right? I never know for sure if I really am.
Evanson. It's like heaven without the H.
And then it's Evanson. Okay, so this is our little show that we discuss some of the topics from Doug Hamp's blog from the endtimesteacher.com website, and it's called the I can't get used to this, but it's called the Phantasma-Biblical Journey.
Nice.
And we're in. So this will either take place, when we meet up for lunch at a restaurant, or over the phone. I know I can get Webb on the phone sometimes when he's traveling home from work or whatever. So that's where the journey idea comes from.
That's why we're in the car as a theme.
Right. And the phantasma, phantasmagorical is kind of like, it's supernatural, preternatural, but this is biblical. Mm-hmm. They thought Jesus was a phantasm when he was walking on water in the middle of, the Sea of Galilee. So today's topic has kind of been something that has been preponderantly in the new, like, at least End Times Bible news. Mm-hmm. You won't really hear about it on the mainstream media or anything, because they won't scream about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're not sure what to say.
I guess not. Well, there's been a lot of developments for the Third Temple. Sanhedrin got a lot of things in the works. I know that there's the that mosque that's there on the Temple Mount, and that would be, it's very dangerous to even talk about this in Jerusalem, because the Palestinians, they control the Temple Mount, and just recently, at the last day of Hanukkah this past year, 2018, they had a ceremony to consecrate the Third Temple's altar, and they had to make some concessions. They had to have the meat prepared ahead of time. They couldn't slaughter the animal. They couldn't get permission for that. But they quickly set up the altar. They had the Kohens of the Levitical tribe, the priests, do the ceremony. Mm-hmm. They did interviews, and they were saying that they're wanting to invite the nations, the 70 nations, so that they can follow the no-hide laws. It's just like be a good, moral, ethical person and nation. These no-hide laws. No, it's like the Ten Commandments without worshiping the true God. They don't have to necessarily do that, because it's kind of like, you hear in these the interviews with some of the rabbinical priests, the rabbis. They were saying, no, we all worship the same God. We all want to come together to worship. It's, we have problems with the terrorists, but, once we can get past that, we can have, all nations working together, worshiping together. And I'm just, it's like the, John Lennon's Imagine, put to,
imagine there's no heaven.
Yeah.
And all religions.
Well, we're doing it here. Mm-hmm. We're doing it ourselves. Thank you very much. We can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can come to agreement and love and peace and on our own terms. Yeah.
And I think that they have, the setup of following Torah is the only way that they believe in to live sinlessly.
Right.
Like to be perfect or to be right with God. And also that God is unknowable.
Yeah.
It's kind of in the backdrop of their...
Ineffable.
Yeah.
You can't speak his name.
You can't. So because of that distance, then all the religions kind of have equal standing.
Yeah.
Which is sort of distant from the intimacy of being close to God.
Right.
So it's more about doing the right thing, and so they're setting that up.
Right.
They want to set it up to do the right thing and move this story forward.
Based on agreement, because I mean, if they are in control of what the people that are Jews can do through takanot, through oral tradition, oral law, then they can kind of social engineer it to be what they want it to be, so that it can be, ecumenical, I guess, if they want it.
Well, and to be to include all the other religions.
Yeah.
They can work on the way the words come out and make it politically correct for this day and age. And the God of the Old Testament is so old-fashioned.
And political correctness comes out of deconstructionism after World War II. Words don't have any higher meaning than just, what you want them to be.
Right.
It's fluid.
Yeah.
So we can make it what we want it to be. We can make people say the things we want them to say, and everyone can be in agreement.
Why is this topic relevant to a believer today? If you follow Jesus, what's the relevance of knowing about the temple and what's going on with those rabbis? Who cares? That's across the ocean. Right.
Well, I think, Zechariah talks about 11 through 14. It says,
You've leaned out of frame.
Yeah. So it says, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling for all the nations. It's like an epicenter, and everything radiates out and back in towards it. And I think that the third temple is necessary for 2 Thessalonians 2 Thessalonians 2, to have the Antichrist sitting in the temple, claiming to be God, speaking great words of blasphemy. Talks about how the sorcery and deception will increase, and that God's he's allowing it to happen so that those that do not follow him will go kind of walk into their own destruction, because they have, right now everybody, so many billions of people have internet access and can come across gospel preaching, and can choose which way they want to interpret it. If they want to interpret it as that's hate speech, or they want to interpret it as I need a savior. I'm guilty of my own sin.
The reason that this topic is relevant now is that there are pieces being set up that will usher in the pages
that make it possible.
Make it possible to the very things you read about in the book of Revelation actually happening. Those things are possible, and they're specific. What are some of the specifics that have to happen?
Well, the specific things is that I think in their minds you have to have the red heifer, because there's always been bloodshed since the beginning of the 1948 reclaiming that land for Israel, and so forth, and so they need the red heifer to cleanse the land, to cleanse the temple, consecrate it. There is news that they have a red heifer. They bioengineered this red heifer over several times. So they need this. How long? It's taken decades where they've had candidates and they've tried over and over and over again. And according to their standards, it can't have more than 2 non-red hairs.
On the whole body.
On the whole body, which is very
those
rare.
Standards are from the Old Testament, right? In when God first established the parameters of the sacrificial system, He gave them very clear guidelines, and this group of people are coming back to those guidelines and saying, we want to reinstitute the sacrificial system and set up the temple where it hasn't been set up. It hasn't been able to be in the right place.
But also they want a Messiah who can be someone who can unite the world together in peace. Because in their minds, it's only the Messiah can do that, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were talking about at lunch is that, in their minds, Messiah won't come until we are able to work these things out ahead of time to prepare the way for him.
Right.
It talks about Malachi 1 coming to prepare the way. Or returning the hearts of the fathers to the children.
Until we get the house ready, the master of the house will not come.
Yeah.
And so the effort is, it's so ironic because the effort that they're putting into it is based in such good stuff.
Yeah.
Like, who doesn't want world peace?
I know.
Who doesn't want the Messiah to come back?
Right.
Or to come the first time, rather.
It would take a Messiah, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But, I mean, is this going to be the man of lawlessness and sin who plays himself off as who they want?
You're leaning out of frame again.
Oh, this is so...
Closer, buddy, closer.
I don't know.
You and me.
I don't know. In some parts of the world, this is comfortable.
This is normal.
This is comfortable, like space.
We need a wider
people.
angle lens.
Yeah.
So we can be
Americans.
Americans.
So I'm going to lean in. Yeah, Americans.
Okay, I don't know you.
Okay, so we're going to do it like this. Okay. But, all these... They're trying to make these things happen. They were... trying to bioengineer a red heifer, trying to, commission a crown for the Messiah.
Yeah.
They said that next year for Passover, they're going to invite the nations again to do Passover with them and to sacrifice Passover lamb. I mean, we know who the real Passover lamb is, always will be. It's our Jesus, the Messiah. And in the Robert Yosef Berger, the rabbi over the tomb of David, the Messiah is from the lineage of David. You have this rabbi, he's talking about how the Sembayatan River, I think I pronounced that right.
I'm not sure.
Beyond this kind of like mythical river, there's these Nephilim that they believe are fallen angels, or angels that have not fallen. This is what they believe in this specific context and this legend of rabbinical Judaism, that they will be the army, kind of like a forward guard or something for the Messiah. And that reminds me of the Septuagint version of Isaiah 13, where it says, come out of the gates, giants. I have called giants to come out of the gates to be like the rod of my anger. Yeah. And it reminds me of Isaiah 14 and I think Isaiah 9, where it talks about the Assyrian in the land who is the rod of his anger. And Micah 5 relates that to the Antichrist, who will be in the land. So it's like the Assyrian in the land with his entourage of Praetorian Guard or something.
So you're saying that
of Nephilim. That just blows my mind.
There's an actual tradition or a legend that they being these priests who are or these rabbis that are keeping this tradition.
Whether it's true is neither here nor there. It's what they believe.
Here's their belief. That there is a group of Nephilim, and they call them Nephilim.
Yeah.
That are unfallen, so they're still sinless
in their
angels.
Eyes. Yeah, in their eyes.
Well, let me this is their eyes, that are going to come out of the river and actually usher in or being a fighting force to bring in the Messiah that they're waiting for.
Yeah.
And the irony of that
fight with him.
And to fight with him.
Like David's mighty men.
Yeah.
His Gaborim.
So
Gaborim.
The irony of that is that actually fits with our worldview, except that the Nephilim are fallen.
Yep.
And the Assyrian that they are preparing to raise up as the Messiah is another name used for the very Antichrist that will be standing against the Lord of hosts.
It'll work for them for 3.5 years, apparently. with what Daniel 9 talks about, the prophecy of in the middle of the week he will cause he will be the abomination that causes desolation that Jesus talked about in Matthew 24. And that's a sign. When you see that, get out of Dodge, get out of Jerusalem.
How could they believe that there are Nephilim that are unfallen? Like, how does that work?
I don't even know how they believe that they're not, that they're not the creation of the hybridization, the offspring of the Watchers, the fallen angels, and Earth women or whatever.
Yeah. So let's say maybe that part was different, but if you have a Nephilim and it's unfallen, the only way anybody could be unfallen is if you followed the Torah, right? Yeah. Like perfectly.
Yeah, sin is lawlessness according to 1 John.
And the law is the law of Moses.
Yeah.
So these guys
I like to take
Torah,
I like to take it back.
Following giants.
Right. And I like to take it all the way back
Has
to
anybody heard of Torah following giants? Like Nephilim that follow the Torah? That's something to think about. Anyway, go on. You were taking it back?
Maybe you follow it with deception just to lead on a group of people long enough so that you can put the knife in their back or something. Like maybe you can feign, being.
Well, anybody can
observant,
act like they're
act like
not.
it.
They're
like
sinless.
the Pharisees.
Sure.
They're called a brood of vipers.
You already live in a world
you
where
could live like that.
The external appearance is how you've got to prove that you're without fault. And that just means not getting caught.
Not getting caught. And not getting sloppy.
Right.
With how you try to follow it.
Right.
Because, they might take it all out of context, like Lucifer did in the wilderness with Jesus, and quote it perfectly and present it, but yet there's deception as poison because it's out of context and it's being used as a weapon instead of as the holy instructions from God.
Yeah.
So this just raises a lot of questions, and it what questions does it put into your mind? Like what should I be looking out for now?
Yeah. I always think it's interesting to revisit the different pieces of the puzzle and the players as the stage is set for the end times, for end time prophecy.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to realize that the catalyst that will set all these things off may not be the most obvious choice.
Right.
So hold this loosely. Don't think that we are saying this is a definitive way, but it's like a red flag.
Right.
Someone's telling you a story and you're like, hey, wait, that's a thing.
Right.
That's another thing. And you put a red flag on this and watch it with us.
Well, it's like, people have been fooled before by women putting on stuffing their bellies with pillows and stuff, right?
Sure.
And then come help me, wait on me hand and foot, I'm pregnant, or whatever. The ruse, the trap is set. These could be false, signs or whatever. We have to watch out for that.
Yeah.
But if it's for real, then there's a process, when the woman is fertilized and has the baby, there's a process where it's going to take some time, and then she's going to go into labor, and it's going to be, a natural preset type of modality of her going through these stages.
Yeah.
And
I think those contractions, Jesus calls it the beginning of the birth pangs.
Right.
That as the labor gets the delivery gets closer, they get closer together and more intense.
Right.
And this is one of those things in my mind where another sign this close,
Right.
like every few weeks,
Right.
every week, there's like some other epic major sign.
Right.
They're getting closer together.
Right. The Nephilim army thing, that was from 2017, because in China, in a remote village, they had found, rather large skeletons in like a Bronze Age type of environment or whatever, like ancient skeletons, and they were 6'3" on average, which for that area,
That's a big Chinaman.
That's big for that area, yeah. But it doesn't necessarily mean Nephilim. But it kicked off the discussion, and like, oh yeah, there's this rabbinical, like legend, and I don't know why, but let me just tell you now,
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was a pretext for, hey, we found these skeletons, let's share this now.
Like it was intentional and calculated.
Yeah. I don't know if they were behind finding this, but it's like, oh well, we're wanting to talk about this. This is a good pretext.
Yeah.
And then, Jerusalem is now considered, like, it's been made the capital, with the U.S. embassy being moved there. That was like 2017, right? Yeah, that was 2017, same year. 2018, you have the Red Heifer. That's something that they've been trying to get. So and then they say, okay, we're going to make the altar, consecrate the altar, and now we're going to make commission a crown for the Messiah. So it's just like, okay, it's
now. If I were you as a viewer, I would go and research the temple. Research the different elements that are in the temple.
Yeah.
And research what the first temple is versus the second temple, and why it would be, what those things did for the society, for the culture that followed the temple, and what would a third temple bring back to them. To what end? Why set up a third temple? And as you study that out, you will see some things that are, it's fascinating that stuff is up and coming right now.
Right. And I had recently heard that they were doubtful that Ezekiel should be put in the Bible because the dimensions of Ezekiel's temple were different than what, the first two temples. And it made it in to the prophets, but when I've heard, through the Temple Institute, that they have a lot of it prefabricated, and I'm curious as to what model they're following and what that will signal to us. Like, what, like, are they thinking Ezekiel or are they thinking Solomon's again? Doug Camp has this great teaching on the Temple of Solomon and the Freemasons and the Antichrist. And are they going to go, because there's a Freemasonic underpinning, are they going to go for Solomon's? And like, that's kind of telling if they're not doing the Ezekiel dimensions.
It tells something.
So as a viewer, that's something to look out for and to think about. All right. So for this time, our journey is over, and we would like you to just keep this in your mind, and share this with your friends. And this might be something for a topic of Bible study with your church and with your home group or something like that. But also, please, we would like you to like and subscribe to the Phantasma-Biblical Journey for End Times Bible Teacher, and do one of these with your friends yourself.
Right on.
Get this message out there and keep going. All right, signing out. Journey's end for now. Bye. Let me turn this on.